The story begins with a man named Will, who arrives in Spain with his family to spend a vacation after a long time. He is very excited about this reunion. There, his father Martin welcomes him very warmly, and the two of them head toward a waiting boat. On the way, Will receives a phone call related to his work. However, he calmly asks for a short break, because he knows that his work calls often make his father uncomfortable. When they reach their destination, Will's mother Lori, his younger brother Josh, and Josh's girlfriend Dara welcome him with big smiles. The whole family looks extremely happy, as they are waiting to enjoy a special dinner together. As soon as they sit at the dinner table, the two brothers begin talking about their childhood memories, how they had to move again and again because of their father's job. Lori feels overwhelmed seeing her family together, and to celebrate the evening, they begin drinking wine. The atmosphere becomes even more cheerful when Josh brings up a funny story from Will's past, making everyone laugh. But this happy moment suddenly stops when Will receives a disturbing phone call. Seriousness spreads across his face, and seeing his worry, everyone becomes sad. Finally, Will reveals that his company has gone bankrupt. Hearing this, everyone falls silent, and an awkward sadness fills the air. Thinking about what will happen next, Will leaves and walks alone toward the seashore. When he returns, he tries to fix the ruined mood. He goes to his father Martin and apologizes for the stress caused by his situation. Martin also apologizes, understanding how difficult this time is for his son. The next day, the family goes out on a boat trip, but Will's eyes remain fixed on his constantly ringing phone. Even unwillingly, he helps handle the boat, steering it, till they finally stop the boat. Still distracted by his phone, tension begins to rise. Suddenly, Martin urgently asks him to take control of the boat. At that very moment, a high-speed motorboat comes dangerously close to them. Will has no idea about the approaching danger, and because of his distraction, their boat starts drifting directionless in the strong wind. Martin panics and shouts. Will manages to handle it just in time, preventing a major accident that could have injured Dara. Amid this chaos, Will's phone rings again, but this time Martin, without hesitation, grabs it and throws it into the sea. This sparks a heated argument between them. Emotions boil over. In anger, Will makes a big decision. He jumps into the sea and swims to the shore in search of peace. Disappearance. After reaching land, he quickly goes to a pharmacy to buy antiseptic for Dara's wound and then buys a drink to quench his thirst. While he stands looking at the vast ocean, Martin feels uneasy because the same frightening speedboat passes by again. A while later, when Will returns to the beach, his family is nowhere to be seen. He tries asking people on the shore for help, but they speak Spanish so fast that he can't understand anything. He approaches some young men standing in the waves, but their words are just as incomprehensible as the sound of the sea. Fear grows in Will's heart. He wonders if his family accidentally left him behind. He walks along the coast to look for their boat more carefully. In the faint moonlight, he sees the yacht drifting alone in the water. When he boards it, he realizes something is terribly wrong. The boat has no power and his family is missing. Police and chase hopeless. Will goes to the local police station for help. Inside, officers are busy playing cards and pay little attention to him, which makes him furious. Eventually, he manages to speak to the station captain. Hearing Will's name, the captain immediately makes a phone call and suddenly looks concerned. He asks Will to show them the boat's location. At night, Will and the officers head out, but their path leads them to a stranger who claims he knows Will and can help find his family. Suspicious, Will tries to run. The officers stop him, and a scuffle breaks out. Somehow Will escapes, steals a police car, and speeds off into the night while officers chase him. The chase continues until they surround him, causing the stolen car to crash. They begin beating him badly. Just when all hope seems lost, Martin suddenly appears and swiftly takes down the attackers, saving his son. The big secret with Martin's support, Will stands up terrified but grateful to be alive. He immediately asks about Josh and his mother. Martin has no answer. With a heavy heart, he reveals a huge secret. He is actually a CIA agent. He believes that someone from his past has returned and is now threatening their family. He keeps apologizing and promises to bring the family back together. Soon, he receives a quiet phone call from a secret CIA contact asking him to meet discreetly. Martin shares few details and takes Will to a safe house, a place where they can hide from the coming danger, the meeting and betrayal as time passes. Martin asks Will to drive him to a meeting point where their team leader Carrick is waiting. What they don't know is that a sniper is already positioned there, silently preparing his rifle. They arrive. Martin tells Will to stay in the car. Before leaving, expresses his emotions, telling Will how proud he is of the man he has become. Martin meets Carrick, but suspects his involvement in the crisis. The truth comes out, Martin explains, that the people from whom they took a briefcase have kidnapped his family and threatened to harm them. if it isn't returned within 24 hours. Carrick says the briefcase has gone missing, leaving Martin desperate for another solution. Tragedy strikes as Martin walks back toward the car. A sniper shoots him. He collapses on the spot. Will watches in shock and grief, crawling toward his fallen father, tears streaming down his face. The ruthless sniper sees another opportunity and aims at Will, but Will quickly grabs Martin's gun and a surviving cell phone and narrowly escapes. Before the gunmen reach him, while fleeing, he collides with a police officer. Seeing the weapon in Will's hand, the officer points his gun at him and prepares to arrest him. Bill fired a shot. In response, Will also opened fire on the government agent. But just then, more police officers arrived at the scene. Will ran again, sprinting for his life until he reached a tall railing, gathering the last bit of his strength. He jumped over it and landed in a nearby park. As he moved through the streets, a mounted police officer spotted him and began chasing him. Surprisingly, Will managed to run faster than the large horse and narrowly escaped capture. Eventually, he found brief relief inside a public restroom where he tried to rest and make sense of everything that had happened. After calming himself, Will stepped back onto the crowded streets. To hide his identity, he picked up a cap and sunglasses from somewhere and wore them. Then he decided to get rid of the gun. Cleverly, he got himself arrested at the U.S. Embassy. Inside the embassy, Will told an official about his father's painful death and the danger looming over his family. But the officer didn't believe him and advised him to hire a lawyer. While they were talking, the officer received a phone call that seemed related to Will. Disappointed, Will left the embassy. Outside, he saw Carrick waiting for him in a car. She said she was Martin's friend and knew a lot about Will, even though he was still young. Will hesitated, but eventually believed her because she promised to help save his family. As the car started moving, Carrick began asking questions about Martin's connections and the mysterious briefcase. Will grew suspicious that she might not be a friend, so he pretended to feel sick and jumped out of the moving car, disappearing into the crowded streets. He boarded a bus to get farther away from the city. Martin's cell phone was still with him, and it kept ringing, the same man calling repeatedly. Will's heart sank when he heard his mother's voice on the phone, desperately asking to speak to Martin. In a heartbreaking moment, Will had to tell her that his father was dead. She broke down crying, but the man on the other end didn't care about their pain. He only wanted the mysterious briefcase. Gathering courage, Will contacted his father's friend Diego and planned to meet Diego's niece, Lucia, at his office. When he reached the address, he kept his gun ready before meeting her. Lucia seemed nervous. Suddenly, Carrick's agents stormed in. Lucia attacked them with a knife, giving Will a chance to join the fight. In the chaotic battle, one enemy was stabbed in the back but kept fighting. The fight continued until Will collapsed from exhaustion. Terrified and angry, Lucia pointed a gun at Will, now thinking he might be a threat to Diego. But Will quickly explained the situation and asked for help finding Diego. Reluctantly, she agreed. They went to Diego's apartment. The gate was open. Will pulled out his gun and entered carefully. Inside, Diego's dead body lay on the floor. Will held Lucia, trying to calm her so her crying wouldn't worsen the tense situation. Then he heard a faint noise from the kitchen. He found Carrick and Gorman there. Furious, Will pointed his gun at them and demanded answers about his father's death. Carrick calmly revealed that Martin had planned to return the briefcase to their enemies, so he had to be eliminated. She offered to help find Will's family, but only if he revealed Martin's remaining connections. Suddenly, Luchette entered the room and opened fire, triggering a brutal gunfight. Will and Luchette escaped the gunfire and ran, with Carrick and Gorman chasing them. They reached the rooftop and realized there was no way down. Will made a brave move. He tied Lucia with a rope and began lowering her. But Gorman shot Will in the shoulder. Still, Lucia was safely helped down by a stranger. Will held onto the rope in pain and eventually fell to the ground, barely escaping the bullets. Lucia got on her bike and they fled again. Will's condition worsened, but they couldn't stop. Carrick rammed Lucia's bike with her car and was about to shoot Will, but a crowd intervened. Giving them another chance to escape, Lucia took Will to a nightclub and sought help from a friend with medical skills. He hesitated, but agreed after her pleading. They treated Will's wound. No bullet was inside, but they had to take extreme measures to stop the bleeding, causing Will to pass out. Hours later, he regained consciousness, but was still in pain. Lucia checked his phone and saw Martin's photo. She was shocked when Will confirmed Martin was dead. She revealed she knew Martin as Tom because he wasn't just Will's father, but also Lucia's father, making them half-siblings. They took a train to the location where the briefcase exchange would happen. Will decided to go alone and asked Lucia to wait at a nightclub nearby in case he needed help. They said goodbye. At the location, Will searched carefully. A man approached him and told him to act normal and follow. Will did. He was taken to a car and questioned about his family. The man suddenly attacked him and choked him unconscious. Will woke up tied to a chair, being beaten. He insisted Martin was dead, and the leader appeared revealed to be a CIA agent. The truth came out. The briefcase was part of a plan to expose a corrupt CIA agent. Martin had been caught in the conspiracy. Zahir explained everything and revealed Will's family was still hostage. He forced Will to bring Carrick to the exchange or risk losing his family. Will was again choked unconscious and dumped. Outside the city with a gun, he returned to Lucia's club, and they planned to lure Carrick out. The club owner, loyal to Diego, overheard and offered help. Lucia used her card to pay for drinks, leaving a digital trace to bait Carrick. Soon, agents arrived, and a violent fight broke out. Gorman was captured and interrogated. Will pretended to torture him so he'd escape and lead them to Carrick. Gorman fled. Will followed, leading to an underground parking deal. Zahir's team arrived, chaos erupted, and Carrick grabbed the briefcase and escaped. Will and Lucia chased her in a high-speed pursuit. She fired at them, but traffic trapped her. Will rammed her car into a store. She fired at civilians and escaped again, continuing the chase until both cars crashed. Carrick stepped out with the briefcase and aimed at Will, but suddenly, Zahir's agents arrived, secured everyone, and took the briefcase. Finally, Zahir reunited Will with his family. Emotional hugs followed. They later visited Lucia in the hospital, where Will's family warmly welcomed her. A CIA official gave Will a passport to return home. Curious, Will asked what was inside the briefcase, but the official only hinted that joining the CIA would reveal the truth. Will refused, and after risking everything, he saved his family from the dangerous web of CIA conspiracies and enemies. And the story teaches us, no matter how big the trouble is, family stands above every enemy.